What a nightmare. Wanky Burnham MP, our next Prime Minister, as predicted by me over a year ago. Because you can see what he was doing. Let me tell you what needs to happen in UK. One is we need to get rid of all these metro mayors running buses. Yeah? Well, no wonder the bus fares are so high. It's because we're paying for mayors to basically run them. I mean, Sadiq Khan's on over 100 grand a year, isn't he? It's the way it goes. It's a joke. And I'm on the side of conservatism. Yeah? And I actually think it's time for both RETARD Britain and Reform UK to get out of the way and unite behind an electable leader. It's really sad to have to explain this. I was going to do a video, but my laptop, there's some issue with charging. I'll try and do it tomorrow. The problem you've got is you've had the Blairification of Britain. From 1997 onwards, in fact before, the leftists took charge of our education system. And so basically, if you're a slightly too old white man, you must be a racist and a sexist. But wait a minute. The Reform UK candidate goes, oh yeah, I'm a bit sexist. There was some other controversy about him, but I really wasn't interested. When I saw the face, oh, I'm a plumber. Oh my God. Absolute nightmare. And then RETARD Britain have to come in. Now, before you start having a go at me, because you will, I have every sympathy for Rupert Lowe. I don't believe for a minute that he was groping women who happen to also be Reform UK staffers. It's a joke. I mean, I actually went up to vote for Farage. I actually voted for him because I qualified to vote in this constituency, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, as an MP, he's done absolutely sweet FA. Yeah. In fact, actually, I've got to go and run that station up in his constituency if I get the time. Yeah, because I'm starting to check out again. I'm starting to think, well, you guys wandering around on YouTube, pictures of nights and, how bad things are. You need a strategy and you need tactics. And both of those are absolutely abysmal. Let me explain what Wanky Burnham did. Wanky Burnham was up against, I don't know a lot about the Restore candidate. She seemed actually more electable than the Reform UK. But the trouble is that it splits the vote. Now, Wanky Burnham is going to introduce proportional representation. I know you're going to have to go and look that one up. I'm not going to go into that on today's video. So you had a completely unelectable Reform UK versus a professional politician with a degree from Cambridge. Now, whatever you think of Wanky Burnham, he basically does know how to talk the talk. And he ran an empty campaign on, I'm going to restore hope, look at what a good job I've done in Manchester and all that kind of stuff. And so he swayed over the probably 10 to 15% who care more about what's happening on Strictly Come Dancing than they really do what's going on in the country. Now, this is why I don't mind and I don't criticize citizen journalists who grew up in towns like Rochdale and Luton and Aylesbury and places like that and have watched the Islamization going on. But the trouble is, if you live in a nice sleepy area like Makerfield, near where my mum was born, and basically you live away from these areas, you don't really know what's going on. So you've got to talk about these things with a little bit of candor and also with a little bit of kind of common sense. Let me explain it to you again. Most people have not noticed. Why? Because the Islamists engage in something called taqiyya. Oh, no, we don't want to take over. Honest. Well, you need to look up taqiyya. Now, as for you Bob-tards and you shit and people like that, actually, I reckon the BBC, for a laugh, should actually put Cody on Question Time. It would be quite funny, actually. Totally unelectable. Now, also, look at what I was doing actually this week. I was in Oxford. There was a debate going on. And God, seeing some of those leftist idiots, I think there was a bit of a mass debate going on, but, and the funny thing is we went to watch the football and then came back and they were still there. The Tommy Robinson supporters had bugged off. And so I opened up the salvo with a, "Can you do something original, please?" I said, "Is that all you do?" Basically, one person with a megaphone and the rest of you respond like lemmings. That's not exactly what I said. I said something similar. And I actually got into discussion with these people. Now, if we ever want a right of centre leader ever elected again, we need to stop banging on about race. We need to stop banging on about immigration. We need to stop banging on about basically making out that we are anti-Islam. We are not. We are anti-radical Islam. Now, of course, the smart question is to say, wait a minute, what's the difference between Islam and radical Islam? And then people go away and investigate Islam. I would encourage anyone to go and investigate Islam. That's called being smart. That's called not saying anything anti-Muslim. I can tell you for a fact, after living for 3 years in the Middle East, most Muslims are nice people. A lot of Muslims like to break the rules. I mean, I had a car bigger than this one. It had a big, it was a big estate. It was an SUV. And every month I went to the alcohol shop. I filled it with my alcohol quota. Then I met in a car park and basically sold it to a Qatari who always had one on the go in the car. Now, okay, you're going to have a go at me about that. It earned me extra money. The black market price was like twice. Fair enough. Who really cares? But basically, the people of the Middle East live under a different system. And, just go back to the last World Cup as to how bad that is for some people. So the way to go about this is to say, wait a minute, we're not going to allow illegal immigration. If you're going to try and come and cross the channel, we will... I've actually moderated my views a bit because the people of Russia thought I was a bit woke, saying I'd fire a warning shot over the thing. Because they were just expecting me to say, look, I'd just shoot straight at the boat. And of course, I wouldn't advocate that. But basically, the rest of the world are just looking at us and we're the laughing stock of the world. I would basically go up in maybe Danny Tomo's boat. I would hook a line to it and I'd say, look, boys, we're dragging you back to France. Yeah, you're not coming. We need to leave the AHCR if we're going to enforce that. I think the asylum system is now so open to abuse that we need to have a long, hard look at it. Suella Braverman, who is electable, said that people are actually lying to say they've become homosexual. Actually, if they're from Afghanistan, I'll stop mid-sentence. And I'm not re-editing. What she was saying is right. She said this is an invasion. She's right. But the general asylum system, we have now got a big problem. Because it does say it's either Quran or Hadith, of course it's going to be either Quran or Hadith, that you can temporarily renounce your religion if basically it helps in the war. Now, a lot of Muslims, the radical Muslims, believe they're in a war. And in that war, they think that they can just basically conquer a country by migration. It's called hijrah. Yeah? I mean, this is where I am saying again, I'm not going to do it this week. I'm actually on Bob's side. The problem is Bob has got the electability of Larry the Cat. In fact, actually, Larry the Cat would win by a landslide. People don't want that sort of rhetoric from Bob. There is no such thing as a Christian nation. And don't quote me, quote John Wesley, who was actually very unhappy about the people who'd gone over on the Mayflower, because the one nation under God is a very much an American thing. So, the Reform and Restore and the Conservatives, who actually are smart, Conservative voters were smart in that only 1% voted for the candidate. They voted tactically. Look also at the Liberal Democrat and the Green vote. The lefties know how to vote in a first-past-the-post system. But you can wave goodbye to first-past-the-pope. Now, some of you wombats will basically go, oh, we need proportional representation. We want our say. If we have proportional representation, we will be like the Netherlands. We will have endless coalition talks, and we'll end up with someone like Winston Peters. Now, you'll have to go and Google Winston Peters, but basically Winston Peters holds New Zealand to ransom every 3 years, and all the old ladies like him, yeah? But basically, Burnham was going, oh, politics is in a mess, politics in a mess. I don't think Andy Burnham is going to fix the country, because what he's got is a massive, whopping national debt inherited from Brown and Boris Johnson. They were the main two perpetrators for that one. When you've got a national debt where the interest on it is larger than the education budget, you've got a country in crisis. We need to unite. Maya Tosi, will you please go back into politics? Because you are the only one out of these guys who actually can string us. That's a bit unkind. You're the only one who is electable. People need to realise what Blair did to this country. He almost depoliticised it. He made it all about identity. He made it all about, oh, hello, I'm Andy Burnham. That's what he's done. But in the meantime, all you guys could do was Rupert Lowe. I mean, he needs sticking out on a dinghy. I mean, this is the idiot who said that there were migrants coming in Great Yarmouth. You can tell he's not from Great Yarmouth when he comes out with some rubbish like that. There was not a migrant boat off Great Yarmouth. I mean, take some doing to get a rib all the way from Dunkirk, all the way up the coast, past some of the most major shipping lanes in the world, and make it to Great Yarmouth. And then also, I think there does need to be an attack on Farage. I'll see what I can do there. We need to tackle the illegal invasion that is going on in this country, but we have got to be smart about it. We've got to realise, get out of our little echo chambers, get out of our car-made YouTube videos, and actually truly try to unite people. Because if you look at the video, and actually I didn't have enough time on my phone, I turned around and I said, well, wait a minute, what do you actually do about radical Islam? And actually I had a very good conversation off camera with this guy who looked a bit weird, well, mind you, he was a lefty, about the Kazakhstan model, about the Russian Federation model, on actually how to manage having Muslims in your country. No one said that one. The other thing we need to do is foreign criminals. If you are a criminal and you are from overseas, and by the way, that I mean that including the children, I would deport Sadiq Khan. I'm not exactly a limp-wristed lefty. I would deport Sadiq Khan for covering up the grooming gangs. I would deport anyone associated with the grooming gangs on this justification. If you are foreign-born, bye. If you are born to foreign parents from either India or Pakistan, bye. A lot's been made of the fact that we've had loads of people from India. Well, most people from India are okay. And in India, you have a strong government where they crack down on extremism. Now, by the time I've posted this video, no one in Speaker's Corner is going to be voting for me, because they're going to go, oh, shit, he actually does know how to deal with this problem. The way to deal with this problem is law and order. The way to deal with this problem is to deport foreign criminals. Every other country I've lived in, they will deport you if you commit a serious crime. In fact, actually, in Russia, you would get deported for. By the way, I didn't get deported. You will get deported for jaywalking. Yeah, if you do it twice, 2 administratives, bye. Yeah, we need to get tough in some ways, and I hate to say this, as an emergency measure, I think we need to go for being a Napoleonic Code country. I hate to say that, but I think that's the way things are. Again, these are things where talking to sensible people actually gets us somewhere. I have no doubt that, no, Nick Tenconi is a jumped-up personal trainer who repeats sound bites. Bob is a little bit better, but he is basically, he calls me ill? You want to start a crusade? Seriously? I mean, I could get you in loony bin with that. You know, just say, oh, Bob, I'm about to lead a crusade. Do you realise how absolutely batshit crazy that sounds? And that's on top of a electorate who've been through an Ofsted education system. Anyway, have a good day. And remember, it's an Amber Alert. Oh, God, I've got to get out of this place. I've got to get out of this place because otherwise I'm going to end up going loony again. You're going to say I'm already loony. Bye.